So this is the last of the Key Stage 3 maths videos I'm making on number work, and I'm going to be looking at arithmetic involving negative numbers. So in this video we're going to be looking at addition and subtraction involving negative numbers, and multiplication and division involving negative numbers. I want to begin by looking at integers. So integers are 0, plus and minus 1, plus and minus 2, plus or minus 3, and so on and so on. And here they are on a number line. Now usually for positive integers, we don't normally add the positive sign. It's only usually for the negative integers that we actually add a sign before it to let us know that it is a negative number. So if we look at this example here of minus 2 add 6, it is assumed that the 6 is a positive 6. And of course the answer to the problem is 4, or positive 4. And if I had 4 subtract 9, it is assumed that both the 4 and the 9 are positive. And of course the answer is minus 5. But what if we had, say, 6 subtract negative 3? Well, to understand the answer to this problem, I'm going to draw up a couple of tables and look for some patterns. I'm going to write down a series of problems. In each case, I'm going to write down the positive and the negative symbol. So let's just say I'm looking at 6 add 3. I'm going to write down positive 6 add positive 3, and the answer is going to give us 9, or positive 9. I'm now going to do positive 6 add positive 2, which gives us positive 8. Then I'm going to do positive 6 add positive 1, which is equal to positive 7. Then we've got positive 6 add 0, which is equal to 6, or positive 6. Next in the pattern is positive 6 add negative 1. And the answer to that is 5. And if we have positive 6 add negative 2, we get 4, or positive 4. And if we have positive 6 add negative 3, we get positive 3. I'm now going to do another table, and we're going to have 6 subtract 3, or positive 6 subtract positive 3. And of course the answer to that is positive 3. Let's now repeat this for 6 subtract 2, which is positive 4. 6 subtract positive 1, which is positive 5. 6 subtract 0, which is equal to positive 6. Now look what happens following our pattern. If I've got positive 6 and I subtract negative 1, I get positive 7. And if I then subtract negative 2, I get positive 8. And if I do 6 subtract negative 3, I get positive 9. So we can see that when we subtract a negative number, it's the same as adding a positive number. So we can see that these two calculations, positive 6 add positive 3 is equal to positive 9, gives the same result as positive 6 subtract negative 3, which is equal to positive 9. And we can also see that if we add a negative number, so in this case we have 6 add negative 3, it's the same as if we subtract a positive number. So these two calculations are the same. And this is where we start producing the rules. If we look at the first two examples, 6 add positive 3 and 6 subtract negative 3, we have this idea of a positive and a positive equaling a positive, and we have a negative and a negative equaling a positive, and a positive and a negative equaling a negative, and a negative and a positive equaling a negative. So in answering the question, what is 6 subtract negative 3, the answer is of course 9. Here are some questions. Feel free to pause the video at any time if you want to have a go at these yourself, and then press play when you're ready. So the first question we have is 13 add negative 6. Notice that there is a bracket around the negative 6. You may or may not get brackets around the numbers, but it all means the same thing. So what we're looking at is the positive and the negative signs here. And positive and a negative is equal to a negative. So we can rewrite this question as 13 subtract 6, which is equal to 7. Question 2, negative 3 subtract positive 5. Again, we have a negative and a positive and a positive is equal to a negative. So negative 3 subtract 5 is equal to negative 8. Question 3, minus 20 subtract negative 11. This time we've got a negative and a negative. And a negative is equal to a positive. So we actually have minus 20 add 11. And of course the answer to that is negative 9. And finally we've got 3 subtract negative 7. Again we have a negative and a negative. So that's the same as a positive. So we have 3 add 7, which is equal to 10. Now let's look at multiplication. Again, I'm going to do 2 tables. And we'll begin with 6 multiplied by 3, which we know is equal to 18. But I'm going to put in the positive signs for both these numbers. So it's positive 6 multiplied by positive 3. We're then going to do 6 multiplied by 2, or positive 6 and positive 2. And of course the answer is 12. Then do 6 multiplied by 1, which is equal to 6. 6 multiplied by 0 is equal to nothing. And then of course we have positive 6 multiplied by negative 1, which is going to equal to negative 6. Think of it as 6 lots of negative 1. Then we have positive 6 multiplied by negative 2, which is equal to negative 12. So think of this as 6 lots of negative 2. And then we have positive 6 multiplied by negative 3, which is equal to negative 18. So in this first table, we started off with positive 6, and then we were multiplying by positive 3 through to negative 3. We're going to do the same again, but we're going to start with negative 6 this time. So negative 6 multiplied by positive 3, so it's 3 lots of negative 6 is going to give us negative 18. Negative 6 multiplied by positive 2 is going to give us negative 12. Negative 6 multiplied by positive 1 is going to equal negative 6. Negative 6 multiplied by 0 is going to equal 0. Then we go into negative 6 multiplied by negative 1. And continuing the pattern, the answer is 6. And if we have negative 6 multiplied by negative 2, the answer is 12. And if we have negative 6 multiplied by negative 3, the answer is 18. So combining our results, we can see that positive 6 multiplied by positive 3 produces the same result as negative 6 multiplied by negative 3, which is 18. And a positive 6 multiplied by negative 3 is minus 18, and a negative 6 multiplied by positive 3 is equal to 18. So a positive number multiplied by a positive number gives a positive result. A negative number multiplied by a negative number gives a positive result. And a positive number multiplied by a negative number gives a negative result. And a negative number multiplied by a positive number gives a negative result. And when we look at division, we'll get the same relationship. And we're going to look at division in a minute. So here are some multiplication questions I'm going to go through. You might want to have a go at these yourself, so press pause and have a go and then press play when you are ready. Negative 4 multiplied by negative 2. So a negative and a negative is going to give us a positive result. So 4 multiplied by 2 is equal to 8. Negative 3 multiplied by negative 7. Well, 3 multiplied by 7 is 21. And because they're both negative, it's going to give us a positive answer. Question 3. Negative 5 multiplied by 6, or positive 6. I haven't put the positive sign in. A negative and a positive is going to result in a negative answer. So negative 5 multiplied by 6 is equal to negative 30. Hopefully you found those pretty straightforward. But with the other 3 questions, I've extended it a little bit. We have, for question 4, negative 2 multiplied by negative 3 multiplied by negative 4. Well, 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 4 is 24. But we've got a negative multiplied by a negative multiplied by a negative. The overall effect is going to be a negative answer, because a negative and a negative produces a positive. We then have a positive multiplied by a negative is going to give us a negative. So the answer is negative 24. For question 5, we have negative 1 multiplied by 2 multiplied by negative 5. Well, 1 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 5 is equal to 10. But we have a negative multiplied by a positive multiplied by a negative. Well, the overall effect is going to be a positive answer. So the answer to this question is positive 10, or 10. And finally, we've got negative 4 multiplied by negative 3 multiplied by negative 5. Well, 4 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 5. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 5 is 60. And we've got a negative multiplied by a negative multiplied by a negative is going to produce a negative answer. So the answer to question 6 is negative 60. And finally, we are going to do division. And as I mentioned just a bit earlier, the relationship between positive and negative numbers in division are the same as multiplication. If I start with 6 or positive 6, and I'm going to divide positive 6 by positive 3, well, 6 divided by 3 is equal to 2. If I now do positive 6 divided by positive 2, we get 3. And if I do positive 6 divided by positive 1, I get 6. I haven't got positive 6 divided by 0 because dividing something by 0 is undefinable. So I now go to positive 6 divided by negative 1, which is negative 6. If I then do positive 6 divided by negative 2, I get negative 3. And then if I have positive 6 divided by negative 3 is equal to negative 2. And similarly, if I do a table where I'm doing negative 6 divided by, so if I do negative 6 divided by positive 3, I get negative 2. If I do negative 6 divided by positive 2, I get negative 3. Negative 6 divided by positive 1 is equal to negative 6. And this time, if I do negative 6 divided by negative 1, I get positive 6, or 6. And if I do negative 6 divided by negative 2, I get positive 3. And if I do negative 6 divided by negative 3, I get positive 2, or 2. And again, we can combine results. 6 divided by 3 is equal to 2, or positive 6 divided by positive 3 is equal to positive 2. And this is the same as negative 6 divided by negative 3, which also gives the answer positive 2. And so a negative number divided by a negative number produces a positive answer. And if we look at positive 6 divided by negative 3, we get negative 2. And if we have negative 6 divided by positive 3, we get negative 2. And so a positive number divided by a negative number produces a negative result. And a negative number divided by a positive answer gives a negative result. And so again, we have this positive and a positive is equal to a positive. A negative and a negative is equal to a positive. A positive and a negative is equal to a negative. And a negative and a positive is equal to a negative. Here are some questions to try. Negative 30 divided by negative 6. Well, I know that 30 divided by 6 is equal to 5. But we have a negative 30 divided by negative 6. A negative and a negative gives a positive 6. So we get the answer 5, or positive 5. Negative 72 divided by 9. Well, 72 divided by 9 is 8, but we have a negative divided by a positive. Remember that this 9 is a positive 9, I just haven't put the positive symbol in. A negative divided by a positive is equal to a negative. So the answer is negative 8. 21 divided by negative 7. 21 divided by 7 is 3. We have a positive divided by a negative is equal to a negative. So the answer is negative 3. And finally, negative 96 divided by negative 8. So 96 divided by 8 is equal to 12. And it's a negative divided by a negative, which is going to give us a positive. So the answer is 12. One final thing to think about. We looked at roots and square roots in a previous video. So if we had what's the square root of 25, well, the square root of 25 is 5, because we know that 5 multiplied by 5 is equal to 25, which is 5 squared. But what's negative 5 multiplied by negative 5? Well, negative 5 multiplied by negative 5 is also equal to 25. Remember, positive multiplied by a positive gives a positive answer. A negative multiplied by a negative is going to give a positive answer. So because 5 multiplied by 5 is equal to 25, and negative 5 multiplied by negative 5 is equal to 25, this also means that 5 squared is equal to negative 5 squared, which is equal to 25. So actually, when we are finding the square root of 25, the answer could be positive or negative 5. Because if we square either positive 5 or negative 5, we get the answer 25. So if we had the square root of 4, now in the previous video we would have said the square root of 4 is equal to 2 because 2 multiplied by 2 is equal to 4, or 2 squared is equal to 4. But actually the square root of 4 could be positive or negative 2, because negative 2 squared, or negative 2 multiplied by negative 2, is also equal to 4. And if I had the square root of 81, that would be positive or negative 9. So that's all I'm going to be covering on negative numbers. It's important to remember that for positive numbers, we don't normally put the positive sign in front of the number. It's only with negative numbers that we actually put a sign in to tell us that it's a negative number. So that's the last of a series of maths tutorials on Key Stage 3 number work. Think of these tutorials as being the basics or the mechanics of the topics covered in each video. I will be drawing upon the work covered in these tutorials in future videos. But I hope you found these videos helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.